think about a midpoint is the point halfway between the two endpoints of a line segment. So right here we have our line segment, and halfway in the middle is our midpoint. That makes sense. So if we call this line segment AB, because it's got points AB, right? So we'd say it's AB. What we're trying to find is our M, which is our midpoint. Okay. So if I were to say the midpoint, you'd say the point in the middle. The middle I could say synonymously with center. Okay, so thinking about the center, could I say that's the central position between this point and this point? Yeah. The central, now I've got two numbers. If I say what's the center between two numbers, that's like the central tendency, because we think about the mean, right? If I said what is the central tendency, which you guys commonly call the average, if I were to say what's the average of 4 and 2, so 4 and 2, you would say, well, 4 plus 2 equals 6, and then you would divide by 2 because there's two numbers there, and you'd say that's 3. So we just found the mean, which is a central tendency of 4 and 2. The same idea. I want to find the midpoint right here. I've got x values and I've got y values. Can I find the center of those two? Let's call this our first position and our second position, because we're going to read from left to right. So we could say here is x1 and y1. Over here on the right, we could say that is x2 and y2, because what I mean by that is there's my first x value, my first y value, my second x value, and my second y value. Now, can I find the average or the mean, the central tendency, the midpoint of those? So can I add the first point and the second point and find the average or the middle or the mean or the central tendency of those two, the midpoint? I bet we could, so I could say that negative 3 plus 7 and then divide it by 2. Let's see, what is negative 3 plus 7? You should be able to say that that's 4, so then I get 4 divided by 2. 4 over 2 is what? 2. Okay, now let's do our y values. Let's pick our second y value and our first y value. Now, our first y value was 2, plus our second y value was negative 2. And again, I'm going to divide by 2 because there's 2 of those there. 2 plus negative 2 is what? 0 over 2. 0 divided by 2, it's not undefined, that's the other way. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So what I'm trying to say is that my center, my midpoint on this line right here is the point 2 for x and 0 for y. And let's see if that's a point actually on here. So I would start at 0 and I'd say 1, 2 right here. I'm going to make that in red so you can see it. Right there, and 0. Well, there it is. Is that a point on the line? It is. Now look at it. Would you say that's about halfway in between? Awesome. Now I'm going to write that algebraically so it makes a little more sense. So my midpoint is equal to my first x value plus my second x value divided by 2, and my first y value with my second y value divided by 2. When you do that, you'll find the center or the midpoint of each of your line segments. So if I give you a couple of coordinates, if I said the point 1, 5, and the end point for that line segment is 5, 2. So here I have a line segment right there. Okay, that's a line segment, and I'm going to now plug those values into that midpoint formula I know. So I'll do my x's in red. So I know this is my first x and my second x. So I'll say that 1 plus 5 divided by 2. Okay? Then I'm going to do my y values. I'm going to say my first one and my second one. So that's 5 plus 2 divided by 2. Now, let's simplify that. Okay, in red we had 1 plus 5 is 6 over 2. And then we had in blue, we had our 5 plus 2, which is 7 divided by 2. All right, we're getting close. So now to fully simplify, 6 over 2 is 3, and 7 over 2 is 3.5. So my midpoint for the line segment right here would be 3, 3.5.